Yo, what's good? It's your boy, Raw Dog, back again with another one. Now, when I started researching this topic had me so intrigued. I'm gonna share some stuff with you guys that I guarantee a lot of us didn't even know about. Very, very interesting. And the topic is pretty much just think about when we were all kids and they used to just push all of this milk on us. Remember? We had milk for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Remember the Got Milk campaign? Remember the mustaches? Well, I started doing research and I'm going to share with you some very disturbing facts where it went from the Got Cheese campaign to Got Milk to back to the Got Cheese to just Got Dairy. Let's jump into it. I'm going to come and talk to you on the back end and let's discuss what we learned. 1.
For decades, we were told one thing: milk does a body good. But what if I told you that message wasn't built on health, but on surplus, government deals, and manipulation? Let's rewind to 1981. President Ronald Reagan had a problem on his hands. Hundreds of millions of pounds of processed cheese rotting in government storage deep in an actual cave in Kansas. That's not an urban legend. That's the U.S. Dairy Commodity Surplus Program in action. You see, the government had been buying excess dairy from farmers to stabilize prices. But by the 80s, they had over 560 million pounds of processed cheese with no market, no plan, just moldy, rubbery blocks stacked in refrigerated caverns. Before they dumped it into the ocean, Reagan had another idea: give it away to the poor. This was the birth of government cheese, distributed under welfare programs and food aid. If you lived through it, you remember the taste: dry, dense, and nearly indestructible. It became pop culture, referenced in songs, movies, and stand-up comedy. But let's back up a bit. Why was there so much cheese in the first place? It all begins with milk. From the early 20th century, American kids were told to drink 3 glasses a day. Why? Calcium, strong bones, vital health. That was the message. But was it true? Not exactly. Parents and schools were sold a lie. Milk isn't bad if it's from your own species. Breast milk is essential for infants. But cow's milk? That's a different story. Originally, humans couldn't digest it. No enzymes for lactose. But over centuries, a genetic mutation allowed some of us to tolerate it. Still, fresh milk spoiled quickly, so humans got clever. They took rennet, an enzyme from a calf's stomach, and added it to milk. This kicked off the fermentation process. Enter cheese, yogurt, butter, delicious, yes, but born out of necessity, not nutrition. Milk spoiled fast, so pasteurization was invented, not from the word pasture, as many may think, but named after Louis Pasteur. Then came a new threat: margarine. The dairy industry needed a defense, and they found one science. Suddenly, milk had vitamin A. That was the first time the word vitamin was used in advertising. No one talked about vitamins before 1912. The National Dairy Council was born, and with it, a campaign not just that milk was good, but that it was vital. Let that sink in. We couldn't even digest it at first. Now it's vital? That's a massive leap. World War I changed everything. Fresh milk didn't travel, but powdered milk did. It became a war staple. A magic drink turned into magic powder. Now milk wasn't just food, it was patriotism. With the US government as its biggest customer, dairy farming exploded. When the war ended, farmers were drowning in milk with no one to sell to. Enter the Department of Agriculture, advertisers, and scientists. In the 1920s, they launched national campaigns: milk songs, posters, school plays, all pushing one goal: get kids to drink more milk. In 1937, children were told to drink a quart of milk per day. Schools even weighed and measured them to prove it was working. Then came the Great Depression. No one could afford milk, so farmers did the unthinkable. They dumped it in the streets to drive prices back up. The government responded with a law: if the price of milk dropped below production cost, they would pay the difference. That broke the system. Once you interfere with supply and demand, things get messy. By World War II, more farmers had joined the dairy rush. Then came the 1970s, the government was drowning in milk again. President Jimmy Carter bailed them out, $2 billion worth. And guess what? More cheese, more stockpiles. And finally, we're back in Reagan's America. That's how we got 560 million pounds of nasty, oily government cheese in a cave in Kansas. The 80s gave us the Got Milk campaign. The 2000s gave us cheese on top of cheese on top of cheese-stuffed crust. The dairy machine didn't slow down, it evolved. Marketing got sharper, kids got hooked, schools got subsidized. We need to be more conscious of what we consume. The lies about milk weren't about health, they were about profit, surplus, and control. Ask yourself, are we really feeding our children what's best, or are we feeding them what's been pushed on us for generations?
What did I tell you? Crazy, right? Let's talk about it. I just got a couple points over here because I just wanted to make sure I ain't missed nothing. The main thing is we've been lied to. Let's just accept it. It is what it is. We just know now. You know what I'm saying? We know now, so now we just gotta move a little different. You know what I'm saying? At least we now know this stuff. At least we now know that it's not as nutritious as they told us for so many years. Next, make sure we are keeping track on what they feeding our kids at school, because I'm telling you, they are pushing so much dairy and cheese and pizza contracts with all these different companies for their pizzas. This is not what we want our kids to be eating. So us as parents, we gotta make sure that we keep in track, looking at that menu, or what they be showing, what they eating. You gotta be looking at that menu and see what's going on with your kids' menu at school, because they feed them anything. Gotta look at that. And what I also noticed is, if you don't want to drink the milk, they're just extra cheese you, extra cheese you, extra cheese you in the crust to death till you die. So either you're going to drink the milk, or we're going to get you with the cheese, or just plain with the dairy, because dairy's in everything. It's real hard to get away from dairy. Now, they could easily say that it's the advertisers' fault, but think about it. The advertisers was just doing their job, right? Trying to make a living just like everybody else. They making those commercials with all that cheese and everything, and they doing their job as advertisers. But what's disturbing is it's backed by our federal government. You know what I'm saying? By the way, it's the ones that we pay our taxes to. So just let that sink in for a second. And just to know that our government they're in control and dictates our nutritional guidelines, you know, for school, for just general health, and supporting all these campaigns for like excessive amounts of dairy and cheese. I'm just, and it's not just milk and cheese, just dairy in a whole. You know, it's just not right. You know, so we gotta just call it out for what it is. You know, all this dairy is just not good for our system. Let's be real. And remember, these are the same people that gave us the food pyramid. This is the stuff that we supposed to eat. You know, we're supposed to follow these guidelines, you know, to stay nutritious. You know, think about that. When I thought about it, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But that's why I wanted to share it with you guys. So, in short, just like anything else, it's all about the money. You know, it's all about the shareholders and the companies at the end of the day that's profiting from all this dairy. So they're gonna tell us whatever they want as long as we keep buying the cheese, keep buying the dairy, because that's all that matters to them at the end of the day is that bottom line, is that dollar. And who would have thought, who would have thought that the dairy industry would have been connected to the federal government? That's it's crazy. I never would have thought that. But when I did this research and made that connection, it was very, very interesting to say the least. Very interesting. So, to undo this unnatural, false programming of just this dependent on dairy, it's going to be hard to reprogram that. It's going to take some time. But the first thing is just to know, this stuff to where we can actually make a more educated decision on what we putting in our bodies and what we letting the establishment and when your kids go to school, what they putting in your kids' bodies as well. And yes, we're not going to forget, milk has calcium. I get it. Milk does have calcium. Guess what? There's a lot of other stuff that got calcium too, such as almonds, dried figs, some cooked kale, even some tofu, which by the way is made with soybeans. So there's other ways to get your calcium in. It's not just milk. So do your research. And just remember, half of the world, not just half of the United States, half of the world don't drink milk. And they doing just fine. So that should tell you everything right there. That's a lot of people that's not drinking milk. Think about it. I gotta laugh because when I thought about this, me and my girl used to talk about this all the time, and she used to just bust out laughing when I used to say this, but basically, milk is not for us. It's not made for us. It's made for baby cows, baby calves, baby whatever the babies or the cows is called. That's what it's made for. It's not made for your babies. So stop it. And last, let's just remember, milk, dairy, all that cheese, all that stuff is delicious. I ain't about to sit here and lie. But at least we know now that it is not so nutritious. That's what we need to know. So just like anything else, make sure you watch how much you consume it. It's been a pleasure, and like with anything else, when I find out some new information, I'm gonna be rushing to come share it with you guys. This your boy, Raw Dog, and I'm out. 1.